Pairing. And we're live
We're live.
to another episode of the Live Clean and Fight Dirty show. Every week, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on Wednesday is your opportunity to talk to UFC coach John Hackleman and ask him your questions about martial arts. He takes questions about anything. We try to
Hey,
but he does say anything. And we've had people ask us some pretty interesting questions. So at the end of the
anything.
episode, the last 10 minutes, you can ask anything. If you ask anything about our topic, I will bring it into the conversation while we're talking. I'm your co-host, Angelo Ferrer. And today's topic, how many techniques should you know? Now, why are we talking about this? Well, some upcoming news on the second week of November is going to be the first Kajikembo certification class. So if you want to be certified by John Hackleman in Kajikembo MMA and you are a Kajikembo practitioner, little asterisk there, contact us. You can contact me. You can contact John. You can send a message right here. How do I contact you? We'll send you the email information on or Facebook, however you want to send us. We don't do carrier pigeon anymore.
What?
Yeah, I know. We got rid of that. so, anyway,
Okay.
so anyway, on our topic about how many techniques should you know? It's funny that you mentioned this because off camera you were saying how many techniques should you know? Because like some martial arts, I know Ed Parker's Kempo has like over 120 techniques. I know in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu they say you should know a black belt should know over 100 different techniques, sweeps, and submissions. So I don't know how many techniques should you know. When does it end? I get 1,000, 3,000.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's like if you're training for the street and the average person is going to train 2 hours a week. That's your average martial arts student, 2 hours a week. So what can you fit in 2 hours a week? How many times do you recycle certain techniques and redo them and you know repetition? They always say disguise your repetition, but we always say repetition is king, right? Um, but in your average fight in the street, if you're fighting in a cage, it's different, but if you're your average street fight, how many techniques do you think the winner of any street fight usually uses to win that fight? One, two, maybe three? I mean, moving your head and keeping your hands up. I don't know if that's the technique or you know something you want to drill a lot, but I don't know. I think your average street fight, you throw maybe three techniques. How many do you need? Yeah, I mean, how many? And like guys like Mike Tyson, I mean, made it all the way to the top of the food chain, and he had like 5, 6 techniques that I've seen him use in his whole career. I don't know how many techniques do you think somebody should learn. Like, didn't Bruce Lee or one of those wise guys said, when I say wise guys, I don't mean like wise guys, criminal wise guys. I mean like wise people. Um, it's better to know 10 techniques and practice them 10,000 times than know 10,000 techniques and practice them 10 times. So,
One, yeah. His quote was, "It's better to know. It's better to. I would rather know one done. No, I fear the man who's done one technique 1,000 times over the man who knows 1,000 techniques." I think that was around those. I'm paraphrasing here, but it was one.
yeah.
He was just talking about one. Like he's more, and he was talking about the analogy of an opponent. Like if he's fighting someone, he's more worried about the guy who's practiced that one thing 1,000 times than the guy who knows 1,000 techniques.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a little more than one. But let's say you're in a fight. Um, if you learn it's a technique or a strategy. But let's say the technique of takedown defense. So maybe a sprawl. So a sprawl and a left hook. So you defend the takedown and you throw the left hook. If you're a wrestler, maybe you could learn maybe a slip, maybe a parry, because you have to block the punch and then a double leg. So if you're a wrestler, seems like you only got to know two techniques. If you're the striker, you should know two techniques. If for a street guy, it would be better to have a few more. But how many more do you need if you're just going to be training for a street situation? The wrestler wants to get his guy on the ground. He considers that a win, but you have to be able to parry and block the punches. So you don't really, you got to learn something there, and then boom, the double leg. Okay. Now, what if you're a jujitsu guy? Now you want to learn, one submission, maybe a rear choke, but you have to learn. They have to learn a couple more because jujitsu guys don't have takedowns, so they have to learn a takedown, and they have to defend the punch. So there's two, and then they want to get the choke. So to get the choke, okay, so they have to learn three. So I mean, realistically, no, it's not realistic. This is it's not realistically, it's ideal. Ideally, a striker to train can just learn two techniques. The wrestler can learn two techniques, and the jujitsu guy has to learn three techniques, right? I mean, because you can start picking things apart. Because if the striker fights the jujitsu guy, right, he doesn't really have to worry about the takedowns. So he just has to learn. He just has to get that punch, But now, if the jujitsu guy learns takedowns from the wrestler, then you have to worry about the takedown defense. It gets kind of complicated if you go at it too many ways, but basically, let's say 5 techniques. If you practice 5 techniques, and that's all, you could be a pretty good martial artist. You could be pretty much unstoppable. Now you have to continue to do your cardio and your fitness and your strength and conditioning. But just when it comes to martial arts techniques, I don't know. I could lose a lot of students for this, but I'll go out on a limb and all my students are gonna be complaining now. I thought you said 5 techniques. Yeah, 5. I'm not gonna learn anymore.
You guys,
But
wait, wait.
they're gonna start protesting. There's gonna be outside the
No,
dojo going,
no,
5 techniques, 5 techniques. But I mean, seriously, if you want to be a minimalist, right? And minimalism is a very good strategy in life. But if you want to be a minimalist, I bet you could be a above average, way above average fighter just practicing 5 techniques. What do you think? And here's a meme I'm going to put out and ask this question. If you're a martial artist and you only could learn 5 techniques and practice them and perfect them, what would those 5 techniques be? And I'll go with number 1, a sprawl. Okay, for me, and then number 1 for a wrestler would be a takedown. But then right, okay, and then I would go with a left hook. I would go with a roundhouse kick. I would go with a jab. Is that 4? That's 4, right? That's 5. Okay, so right there. right there. If I practice those techniques all the time, 2 hours, 2 hours a week. I train at least 5 hours a week, but let's say five. I train about 6, 7 hours a week. Um, those five techniques, man, I'd be so. I want to give me a right hand too. I'll go with six. If that's. I want to write. I want to write. I want to. I want an H bomb in there too. But you very seldom. I mean, that's not. This isn't realistic. I mean, because as a martial artist, we do have to practice. You know, clenching techniques and more footwork and stuff like that. But just basic techniques, I think you get away with five. What do you think?
Yeah, five. I think five. I think from my list would be same thing: a takedown defense, sprawl. I want a takedown also. I want a roundhouse kick and a jab straight. I think
Yeah.
if I had to pick six, if I get six, I'll throw in the left hook. But if I have to pick five, just a nice clean jab straight. Like if I have a jab and an H bomb, like you said, and I can throw a roundhouse kick. Yeah, I already said that was five. So yeah, takedown defense, a sprawl. So we'll take that as a sprawl for my takedown defense. One takedown, roundhouse kicks, strong roundhouse kicks, and a jab straight. I'd like
If
that.
one.
If I had to have six, I'll throw the hook in there. But just to have both hands, to be able to use both hands, that's, I mean, it's not like and again, we're creating a weird vacuum, like a vacuum scenario where like I somehow my mind can't handle working on a left hook. But if I was going to focus on something and I wanted to be ready quick, I mean, you can learn a jab straight. We were just talking. Okay, I was in another group and they were talking.
Jab straight, right?
Yeah. So that, yeah, just
Yeah.
just a
I
jab
think
straight.
I would bet anything a left hook would be more. I think a left hook. I would if I had those two as one or a left hook. I think the left hook is much more effective. Just the left hook than a jab straight. I think if I was fighting a guy that was really good at just the jab straight and I was just good at the left hook, I think the left hook would win. So
Yeah,
if I could pick one technique, just one technique, it would be a left hook.
and again, the other thing that we're forgetting here is because I had a student. I have a student who I train, a big guy. He's about 220, 230. He's a big guy. He's a big dude. And he was asking me, he's like, if I'm preparing for a self-defense scenario, um, wouldn't a haymaker or an H bomb, wouldn't that be pretty effective? And like for a guy your size, yeah. If you connect, if you have a guy my size, I'm about 180 pounds, and you throw an H bomb at me and it connects, I'm gonna have a lot of problems. Like real quick, I'll have a lot of problems. The chances of me getting knocked out are really high because of the size difference alone. So if we start throwing in that self defense element, where because you're talking about MMA, like we have weight classes and we're the same size, but you start talking about
Street. And
yeah,
I think I would pick a left hook over that because that might have more bang, but a left hook will get there so much quicker than that right hand and getting out of the way of that right hand. But then if we don't have what if we don't have we only have one technique, so we can't defend the punch. Oh, now we're screwed, huh? So you can think of all kind of different scenarios here, but basically, footwork and all that, that comes from, that's something you practice all the time when you're doing other things. Like footwork comes with the training, like because you're working on the footwork when you're drilling and sparring and even hitting the bag. So that kind of makes that happen, and head movement and stuff like that. But is that a technique? I don't know. Like, we could call that a technique, but it's kind of just I don't know. I think if you got really good head movement and foot movement, um, you could get out of the way of the right hand all day long, but you might be able to get out of the way of the hook too. So, I mean, if we're really stick to our guns and say you got one technique only, then that's kind of like saying you can't move around. You just have to stand there, right?
Yeah, and then but this brings me back to I knew this guy who who was a ruffian friend of mine, we'll say, and he was also a big guy. This guy was a little bigger. He was about 6'4", about 250. It's a big dude, big, massive dude, and didn't know how to. Never trained. Got into a lot of street fights because he's a ruffian. He was a mechanic and he would go to those car races and he would get into scraps, because they're racing for money and stuff. And the guys who would pick fights with him were really small, always smaller than him, way smaller than him. And the dude didn't. He just wildly swing that haymaker and it would connect. And guys would try to hit him, and he's big, so he'd just stand there and like, good luck trying to stop that guy. It was a truck. And he would just, I'd see him knock out guys. It was like whack a mole, five guys in a row, and they'd all line up. But by the fifth guy, no, and I saw it happen more than once. By the time you get to that fourth or fifth guy, the last guy would run. Like, they saw all their friends get plowed by this dude, and they'd run. And he wasn't very good. Like when I told him you should do martial arts, like you have potential. Like if you could train, he's like, I don't want to train. Like, well, I don't need a training, sir. I can just do that. They're like, well, but you like, what if another big guy? I told him, like, right now you're big in a world of small people. You're gonna fight with a guy your size who's trained. You're in trouble. And cardio don't have anything. And he's like, I'm just not interested. So like, but again, he was that scenario. He wouldn't no head movement. Guys would hit him, and he'd do the like hit, and then because he was just massive, and the people picking fights with him were just stupid. Like every time I'd see a guy pick a fight, I'm just sitting there scratching my head over. It was always over racing, and it was dumb. It was like they'd always be like, oh, they'd be mad if they lost a race and there was like money involved, and they pick a fight with him. I'm just like, oh, geez, it's not. It never ended well, and he never got out of the way. Like I said, he was just one of those big guys that when you're that size difference, you can stand there. I saw him pink, and he had a good jaw, he had a good chin. So he just take the hit, tuck his chin, and then bam. And it
Yeah.
wasn't pretty. It wasn't entertaining. It was really ugly. I told him one of these days you're gonna get arrested. But so, no, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying it's right, but it was what it was.
We I had a fighter that was 6'11" and about 300 pounds. Um, well, he had to cut to 265. And it was kind of the same. He didn't want to work on certain things, keep his hands up. And he thought, because he was always taller, right? And then he fought someone he fought someone his own size, and he got stopped. And it was kind of a harsh lesson. But yeah, I mean, the big guy worries about that, but then another thing he has to worry about is, a lot of people see a big guy, they're gonna pull out the blade. So I don't know. Sounds like, the guys like that aren't gonna. They're usually gonna get it at the end.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but
yeah. If you keep,
if you get to do,
not
for
gonna
you
end.
guys out there, think about if you have to do, if you can only do. Let's not. I mean, I don't want to get crazy. Let's say if we had to do 10 techniques and that's all we could train our guys, do you think you could create a good martial artist with a lot of skills? And if not 10, what is a good number? I mean, I think I think we have I think we have about 100 some techniques in our whole curriculum, but we rotate our curriculum. So we spend a lot more time on some of the techniques, which I keep bringing back around because I want them to perfect those skills a lot more than I do others. But I want them to learn the others. You know what it's like? It's like when you're getting your degree in engineering, you still got to take fucking history and political science and other classes so you're well rounded. I think that's dumb, but I think in martial arts, I think it's kind of the same thing, where I'm exposing them to techniques where I don't think they're going to be using much, like a leg kick for the street. Um, there's that. I have very seldom. I've cut mine down a lot. A lot of my are repetitive. Like I probably have 30 left hooks, different left hooks. So to be honest, my curriculum is very minimalistic, but I do, different roundhouse kicks and different, there's a lot of clinch stuff and shit like that. But I think I could do with, a curriculum, street with 10 techniques, period. But I don't think I could teach an MMA class or train an MMA team with only 10 techniques because we got a lot of questions to answer. Like people are going to come at them with a question and then you got to answer it right away. Like what if they get they get your back, boom, then you got to answer it. Now they got their hooks in, boom, now you got to answer that question. So there's a lot more questions that need to be answered in an MMA fight because it lasts longer. The average street fight lasts 20 seconds. The average MMA fight probably lasts closer to, 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
that's if there's a knockout. So 10 minutes, there's going to be a lot of techniques going on. So you're put in different positions that you have to get out of. So I don't know. I think that's a big differentiation between, for the street and then for the cage. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
And things change. Like I think one of the reasons, and we're gonna get to the comments. We have a lot of comments I'm gonna read off right now. But one of the things that comes up specifically in jujitsu, why there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of techniques. But when you start leaning away from self-defense and going more into specific sport and rule sets, especially in gi jujitsu, now you've just opened up all those collar chokes and judo toes and all that stuff. So
Stuff, yeah.
once you start unlocking these next categories, like you just said, you end up with different questions you have to answer, which starts leading you more towards the hundreds and thousands of techniques. Not so much because you wanted to, but out of necessity because that's what the sport is pushing you towards. Now,
And then you're always doing more and more and more all the time. Like people are always coming up with new holds, Von Floof choke, all. So you got different techniques. Then you got like 5 different ways to apply it, and then you have like 5 or 10 ways to escape from it. So there's one technique that equals like 20 more techniques you got to put in the table. So yeah, there's going to be a lot,
yeah.
and so there's something to think about. Street's not going to be that way.
Now
So
that's really what it's coming down to is are you training for a sport? You're gonna need more for a sport than you are for just practical self-defense. Now,
yeah.
comments. Let's go back here. Zen Baron.
What's
Oh,
up, Zen?
thank you for coming back, man. One technique 10,000 times in practice. Did you write that 100,000? That was a lot of zeros there. 100,000 techniques. One kick. Too confusing. Just add too much into your arsenal. Not flowing. Following fist says, I tend to think of fighting another fighter. That said, a good 8 or more that would flow from one to another, top to bottom, simply good, strong basics. And you're good. Mr. Alwalk 3 says, I've heard you say you don't really teach the sidekick. Is there a reason why? It has worked for numerous fighters like Wonderboy, Petus, and with almost no answer for it. John? That was a question.
No, I do. I do a lot of side kicks. I do a side kick off my front kick. I I think I've dropped someone with a sidekick in one of my fights. So I don't take usually that sidekick stance like Bruce Lee. Usually I throw a sidekick after you miss a round kick and then come back with a sidekick. I teach the sidekick to my students and to my fighters. I've had my fighters use sidekicks, not that often. It's Wonder Boy uses it because Wonder Boy is a karate guy, and that's what he's done, since his dad started training him when he was 4. So he's been working that sidekick over and over and over. It's not as effective for most people, and it's a little harder to learn. Um, so I mean, it's depends on how much time you have, and what are you going to put that time into when you're training. You have to pick and choose, because every technique you practice or you learn or you want to learn, that means there's one that you're not going to learn. So you gotta. So if they because of that sidekick you're going to spend extra time on, that means you're not going to have time. That extra time working on the left hook or the overhand or the double leg, or something like that. So you have to remember as an instructor or as a student, if you're going to spend a lot of time on one thing, make sure that you have the most bang for the buck, and because you're going to take time away from something else. The side kick, I like to do it right after a roundhouse kick. If I miss the roundhouse kick, come back with a side kick. But it's something I don't put a lot of time into because I spend more time on the basic roundhouse kick, um, and the basic left hook and stuff like that. So, like I said, that's I do practice side kick, but I don't. It doesn't, like on my rotating curriculum. It doesn't come up as much as some of the other techniques.
And again, like for me personally, my favorite from my in my own personal arsenal, my sidekick is one of the strongest techniques I have. But back to the student instructor thing, teaching that sidekick takes a lot of time. Takes a lot of freaking time that I don't want to use in a lesson. I'd rather get a beginner started with good hands, nice left hook, and a good roundhouse kick before I even get into the sidekick. Because there's a lot of footwork and movement that you need to be able to get power out of it. So again, there's personal preference, and then there's what you have to do for your students too. Um, Next here we have Mitter 99. Chuck Liddell and Glover seem pretty great. Mr. Alwak says jab, cross, hook, roundhouse, takedown, defense. Oh, that's the list of techniques. Pretty
Yeah.
the ones that we just said. William John, 5 techniques: jab, cross, hook, sprawl, and he threw in the BJJ guard. Oh, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Interesting. He decided to go no kicks. Minute 99. Most fighters seem to have a go-to. Yes, they do. Mr. Alwak, can't jab, can't fight. Joe Louis. Pit Black Belt. All right. Mr. Pit Black Belt. What about the technique of taking your slippers off?
That's he's that's I know he's gay. It's Vato. Vato. He's messing with us. He's not actually gay. It's just gay. That was a gay remark. But anyway, the slippers off, and I'm just going to tell you that's good, Vato, because you could come in and video that for me tonight, because I wanted to put that up as a because I found the one where I took off my slippers when Chuck fought Vanderlei, and I thought Vanderlei's coach was going to come attack Chuck, so I kicked off my slippers during the weigh-in. I got that on video. Somebody videoed that. It came up on YouTube. So I got that clip, and I want to show the technique of taking off your slippers before a fight. And that is the technique. It's a skill to have, but to be honest, I don't spend much time on it because I'm dumb. I don't know. I should, but I don't.
So Mr. Alex says you should be able to throw every kick and punch. It's not too much. Roundhouse, side kick, back kick, front kick is basic. Jab, cross, and hook too. That's not complicated at all. So yeah, we're going again. We're going a little past the 5.
It's not. But then, what if somebody takes you down? You got to throw that in there,
You have to,
right? So you got to take down the takedown defense. right? What if somebody gets you from behind? You got to work on that technique if that happens, right? Now we're working on some groundwork too. What if someone does take you down? Because it doesn't sound like you're working on a takedown defense. All you have is strikes. So now you're on the ground, and then somebody mounts you. Do you have a mount escape there too? So you gotta have a takedown defense, or else you're gonna get taken down, right? So, boom, there you go.
RB video. I just wanted to pop in and say that I've been doing the Pit DVD, upper and lower and full body since like 2009. And now I do it with my son, who's training to fight.
Thank you, thank you. Appreciate it, and I'm glad you got some use out of it, and I'm glad it did you some good. You know, nothing. There's nothing more important in life than learning how to defend yourself and your family.
And not to mention, you get to spend time with your son. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then conditioning. I'm telling you, conditioning, like you see on that DVD, is very important part of any martial art. So thanks for what. Thanks for your support, brother.
William John, a solid jab is hard to beat. It may not be the most powerful shot, but there's nothing more annoying and distracting than a quick, solid jab.
It's thick. It's thick, and I agree with him because I was not a good jab blocker parrier. I was never one, and I'll admit that. I was always going out for the. I was always going at them and not defending like I should have. And it fucking hurts. And with a bare fist, hurts a lot more than with the glove on, even the MMA glove. With this bare fist, it's like a rock right in their face. And if you catch someone with some solid jabs, not whipping jabs like Muhammad Ali, but like stiff jabs and right on the face enough times in a street fight, that alone can win you the fight. Because
Yeah.
you can bust somebody up pretty good with a jab. Don't get as many knockouts, boom, but you can bust someone up. And it's hard to defend unless you bring it down. Then you're going to get knocked out. But if you bring it straight out and straight back, then you're going to be hard to beat with a really good jab. And that's true. Good point.
And again, like in a self, if we start leaning away from, in both scenarios, but even in the self defense scenario, so many people think they are ready to fight until they get punched in the face, the way Mike Tyson always talks about, and especially getting popped in the nose and the blood rush. That deters a lot of people right away. Like a lot of people get popped to the nose, and it's like, I changed my mind. I changed my mind. So the next,
go ahead. Yeah, go on.
Oh, no, go ahead.
It hurts so much. I think getting cracked in the face really hard with a jab, from my personal experience, was worse than getting kicked right in the groin. Yeah. It just messes me up because the groin hurts, but this not only hurts, it messes with your vision. When you start bleeding, some guys go crazy and they do better when they're bleeding. Like you watch who's some of these crazy fighters like Max Holloway. Man, when he starts bleeding, he's fighting harder. When I saw my own blood, it made me sick to my stomach. I wanted to puke because I don't like bleeding, and most people don't. So cracking somebody like that, to me, watching myself bleed was more detrimental than getting kicked in the groin.
Yeah, same here. I never liked getting popped in the nose. It sucked. Looking here, where did I leave off on? Oh,
I got cracked a lot in the nose, by the way, as you can tell.
Definitely. With 10, John. Okay, now he's increasing. It's how long you keep increasing your techniques. Now we're 10. He started at 6. Now we're at 10. 10. Jab, cross, hook, front, side, roundhouse kick, back kick, jumping and spinning for those athletic enough takedowns, falling guard. William John says, "Look at Chuck. He was in the UFC by throwing a few punches well and mastering takedown defenses." Yeah. Gamma just joined the Pit Online, and I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karate Muzzy. How about a quick back fist? That's a question. Karate Guy Muzzy asks, how about a quick back fist?
The back fist? Are you trying to slap him in the face? And you're not going to hurt anyone with a back fist. You might as well throw just a snap jab or a back fist. It's still going to, if I had to pick that or just a solid jab, because you could just hit him with a back fist, you'll score a point, maybe if it's a tournament, but you're not going to, I don't think you're going to really, I mean, I don't know. You could set some up with it, but I wouldn't spend my time on that. I rather throw a solid jab than a back fist.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Draw walk. Oh, I agree. You do need takedown defense and groundwork. I'm just saying that kicks and punches are basic. I'm anti-kata as much as you, but we did slow basics as a kid that forced you to get good. Growing kicks are also overrated. Angelo, I was answering as your combo was regressing. It started with 5, then John with a 10, so I did as well. That's cool.
Which way?
No, he's letting me know that he's trying to keep with the flow of conversation. So that's why, like, when we started getting to 10, he started adding to his techniques. Understood.
Because it's interesting to see if I could have 10 techniques, or then if you can only have 5, and you got to narrow it down each time, then you can only have 3. So you got to think what's really important. When you think like that, you really start cutting down all the excess, and you really focus on what's really important. How many techniques do you really need? Unless you're planning to fight for a UFC title, I think if you're training for the street, the bare minimum means you're going to give the bare maximum to your training with each one. So you're going to have, if you had 5 killer, you're so good at these 5 techniques, I think you'd be, good the rest of your life. You could add 10 to it, you're still going to be really good. So I just think you should think of that as a martial artist and as the martial arts instructor, to just think, do I really need all these techniques? Or maybe I could put them, if you're doing a rotating curriculum like I do, they're going through the hooks a lot, the basic techniques a lot, the head movement a lot, the ground, the takedown defense a lot. Like those are coming up all the time in class, and then sometimes I don't put them in quite as often, but I do put them in just so you can get a look at it. And sometimes people really like that, and maybe they want to go off and practice that more. But I think for your rotating curriculum, you should keep those basics, those core basics, say 10 techniques, basics, and just make them practice those almost every class, and then sprinkle in a bunch of other stuff. And then sometimes some guy will gravitate towards some of the stuff you're throwing in as just sprinkling in. Then he might go practice those more. You know what I mean? But that's how I think it's the best way to teach, as opposed to throwing so much stuff at them and having them pick up on all this craziness. Especially, and I'm not even talking about the kata and anything choreographed at all. Those are nowhere in my curriculum, but I still don't want to overwhelm people where they have to learn all these new techniques all the time.
And Karate Guy Muzzy says, yeah, you're right. It's not very powerful. Karate Guy says, thanks for your answer to his question. All right. So yeah, definitely. Again, going back to as a martial artist and as an instructor, especially as an instructor,
Yeah.
it can get really tempting as an instructor to start teaching them a bunch of, as I like to call it, ninja shit, like
Yeah.
stuff that's really fancy, a spinning hook kick, a wheel kick, a question mark kick. These are fun to do. They're fun to practice for an experience.
Those 3 techniques you said right there, to me, those techniques, except for the spinning hook kick, even though we do practice it once in a while, spinning back kick, I think is very important. And I think those other techniques you just brought up, I think those
Question mark kick.
that I think that's the most important. I think that's probably the second most important roundhouse kick. So we do that all the time. We don't just do it a question mark. We do a head kick. We call it a head kick, and some people bring it up with a question mark. Sometimes you just bring it in from there. So, but head kick, roundhouse head kick is practice. That's one of our go-tos. And so the spinning back kick is without a doubt one of our favorite street or um, mainly sport, but we do throw it for the street, but it's not, to me it's not as safe in the street. Um, but if it lands, it's a game, it's a game ender right there. But
I-
what
yeah, those the spinning kicks are game enders. They're hard to land, like you said, but when they do, not. I say they're hard to land if you don't practice it. It takes time, but when you get the timing on it, people just
The
never
spinning hook kick, the
never.
spinning hook kick is a little more dangerous. I wouldn't practice that for the street as much. I show it to my guys just to have fun with it. But
Yeah,
a jump spinning or a spinning back kick to the gut is a game stopper, and it's hard to counter if you do it right. It's like how do you counter a spinning back kick? I mean, I've never seen Benny the Jet. I've seen him miss them,
yeah.
but I've never seen anyone counter his spinning back kicks.
I get that question a lot. And you just get out of the way. But the problem is, you don't see it coming. No one just comes. If they know how to do it, they're not going to sit there and be like, so they're not going to start giving you telegraph movements. It's going to be one of those things where you think you caught him with something, you're coming at him, and bam, and next thing you know, you're on the ground. But again, but it's fun. It's fun to think about as an instructor, like when you're looking at your curriculum, there's stuff that you really need, and then there's the fun stuff that has a low percentage of landing, but it's fun to practice. For you grapplers, the omoplata. That's a perfect example of a technique that it's really hard to set up, but it's fun to practice. But it's really hard to set up. And let's face it, you're not gonna you're not gonna open up with an omoplata on anyone. I mean, unless you're one of those guys. But anyway,
And one reason to do it when it's like just fun is because you just add a little something else, and then their mind goes somewhere else. Like I'm big on repetition is king, and just show the fucking um be disciplined and just be repetition. Don't shy away from repetition. And I believe in that. But then once in a while, I want to throw in a fun time and just have a fun workout. And maybe I pull out the rubber knives and say, "All right, everybody has a knife. Go spar." And just something fun, just so they can practice it and see it, and maybe think, "Hey, I wouldn't mind practicing that," or "Oh, that was fun. I'm never going to do that again." So I think it's fun. I think it's a good idea to once in a while throw in some crazy shit and just have them, have a good time. But I think if you start using that as your core curriculum, like the kata, then you're just doing your students such a disservice that you're not really teaching them to be the best street defense fighter that they can be. You're mixing them up. They don't even know what to do if they get jumped. So I think you should stick with the core curriculum, and that core curriculum should be a small number of very effective techniques, and then once in a while goof around with them and have a fun day. So, bing. I don't know. What do you think?
last last few more comments here came in. Gamma says, "It seems like once you become a black belt, you trim the fat off and let a lot of techniques go. I think there's way too many techniques, so there's no way you'll be able to use them all in a fight."
Yeah.
William John says, "Coach, to simplify this, what two martial arts style?" Oh boy, here's a question. What two martial arts styles would you emphasize the most?
To well, since Kaji Kempo is a hybrid, I won't even use it, but Kaji Kempo without a doubt would be number one. And Kaji Kempo, because it's a mixture. Like Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is a sport. Um, Muay Thai is the sport. Boxing is the sport. Wrestling is the sport. If I had to do two, that's a tough one. And if I wanted them to perfect two things, it would probably be boxing and wrestling.
There you go. Mitter. Foot sweep? Question mark. Foot sweep? Foot sweep? What do
Oh,
you
what did it say?
what are your techniques? Foot sweep? What do you think?
I don't know. Is it off a clinch? Is it is it catching them coming in with a foot sweep? We do foot sweeps. It is in our curriculum. It's in our core curriculum, but it doesn't spin around much. Like the core curriculum is like it's the middle, and they're going to do that like 10 times, like say a cycle, and then stuff's on the outside where they'll probably go over it 3 times in a cycle. Then I got stuff scattered out here where they might see it once or twice a cycle. And foot sweep would be oh, I got my 10,000 steps while I'm doing this.
How do
It just popped up my 10,000. But
how much are you moving back there, man? What are you doing?
that's how I know how effective it really is when I'm sitting here and I got my 10,000. But I did do a workout and I walked the dog today, so I'm good. But so that's how I feel about that. That's foot sweep is I think it's not one of my main core center career. You know what I'm gonna do now? We should do that. I think I'm gonna do my core curriculum here and then name the next one where they're gonna go over say the core curriculum and stuff they're gonna go over at least 10 times each quarter. And then maybe the next would be maybe something they'll go over 4 or 5 times each quarter. And then kind of like a target, then the one on the outside they'll go over maybe 1 or 2 times each quarter. And some people really pick that up, like the spinning hook kick. I got guys now that can do jump spinning hook kicks, that can do all kind of crazy shit. And some of my guys are just basic, bomb, bomb, bomb. But the people that like the jump spinning hook kicks, they practice them a lot and they get good on them. And we've never really pushed them, but they are in our core. They are in our not core curriculum, but they're on the outskirts.
All right, so there is I like that visualization there. Mr. Alex says Joe Rogan's spinning back kick is death. There isn't a counter for it. It's the counter to the roundhouse, and you can guess where to side sit, but that's about it. You just have to get out of the way. And finally, Mitter 99. Eric Paulson has a nasty spinning kick setup.
Really? Yeah. I wouldn't picture him doing that. Eric Paulson, because he's a great fighter. I think Eric Paulson is a really good fighter. Old school. But I always picture him more on the grappling side, But I think he's an overall fighter, so I wouldn't doubt that he probably has some pretty vicious techniques.
And the Iron Moose just came in saying post black belt is where you learn the fancier, more low probability stuff that takes finesse.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, as a black belt, I think of as me training as the black belt. I still don't want to waste my time on techniques that I'm not going to use. So I stick with pretty much my curriculum that I teach when I train.
All right. So that answers.
We're good.
Good, clean, fight, dirty show. As we mentioned at the beginning of this episode, if you came in just now, at the second week of November, if you are a Kajukenbo practitioner, you are invited to contact us. There's still spots available for that, John.
Yeah, there's nobody's. I haven't even put it out yet, so I'm putting it out now. You guys, and and we're gonna. I'm gonna put out all the info in the on this site, and it's gonna be a 3-day training camp, and the first day you get there, we're gonna do a workout. We're gonna do a workout. We're gonna go over some striking techniques. We're gonna go to the gym. We're gonna do some really hardcore MMA type techniques. What we're doing here is where I'm taking Kajukenbo guys. I'm showing you guys how simple how seamless, maybe not simple, how seamless it is for you guys to learn MMA, because while Kempo isn't really an MMA, it's not a sport. It's a street fighting system of martial arts, but it's the closest thing to MMA that any other martial art has. So it's seamless when if you're a an MMA, you want to learn MMA and you have a Kempo school, it's really easy. It's not easy. It's the easiest to learn and start training MMA. So you could maybe have an extra class. It could be an upgrade. It could be an upgraded class, like a lot of people do BJJ. You could have MMA, and then that could be an upgrade class. Really closely related, the two systems. Teach you how to run a class, how to have a traditional Kempo class or school, and then do MMA on the side. Maybe you want to have an MMA team. I did that. I had a traditional martial arts school where I started at 3 years old all the way up to 73, belt system, right? That's where 97% of my students have always been, on that traditional side. But then I started doing the MMA on the side, and guess I got, this guy fighting for a title, that guy fighting for a UFC title. So out of my like 15 MMA fighters, they started rising. We were the winningest. We were the third or fifth winningest team in the world for a while, and we're just a mom and pop martial arts gym. But we started getting fighters, fighting for UFC titles, winning UFC titles. So you can do that. I'm not trying to brag. What I'm trying to do is say it can be done. And all that time, probably 97% of my students are traditional Kaji Kempo students. We call it Hawaiian Kempo, but it's Kaji Kempo. And then I did the fight team on the side. It was a hobby. And then I got more well known for my hobby than I did for my main job. But you can do it, and that's what I'll be showing you guys, how to take your Kaji Kempo training, whether it's a school or you're a student, and how to start implementing MMA into your school. And you could, next thing you know, you could have a winning fight team on the side. And that's fun. It's fun. It's really fun when your students that are training Kaji Kempo for the street are watching their MMA team, which is the same gym. That gives them a lot of pride. And they go, oh man, that technique really works. Yeah, we're going to train it even harder. So it's a win-win, guys. And it's official now with the Kaji Kempo community that I am the guy that's going to be authorized to teach you guys MMA. And you can have certified MMA classes. There's going to be 4 levels. This next one, the first one I'm going to do is in the second week in November, and it's going to be here in California. It's going to be a 3-day training camp. So, boom, there's going to be a lot more information. And if you want more information, leave a message here, comment, or hit me up on Instagram, thepit.master, and send me a private message there.
So there it is. And the last announcement, for if anybody does want to go to the entire Hawaiian Kempo program, thepit.tv, you can sign up, white to black.
White to black. White to black.
See you next week on Wednesday, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Don't let anyone take your lunch money. Catch y'all next.